Bases dropped on Thursday thoughts. Hope you have power. Hope you're okay after what happened last night here in the heart of the SDH footprint. If you're outside the footprint, once again, hope your morning is okay. Hope that you have power and are fully functional. John, hear you there. It's Thursday thoughts here in SDH. So that means as we work our way backward, 10:30, it is our buddy Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar. And he's going to drop by for the final half hour of the show, give us the Pacific perspective on what's going on in Major League Soccer. Traditionally, we have other folks joining us. It will be electricity dependent or looking at things in other ways to make the show. So we'll discuss what's going on in and around the world. We've got a really cool opening kickoff. But first, I think we probably should start with, I don't know, maybe a little bit of this. You were up at 7:15 this morning and had your social medias up. We got news from Atlanta United that they unveiled plans to nearly double the size of the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training facility and the training ground. $23 million project. You're going to add a 2-story, 20,000 square foot building, taking the overall facility to 50,000 square feet of space. New content production studio, youth development, player performance, recovery capabilities, all those kinds of things. Garth Lagerwey had an interview with Brett McCormick over at Sports Business Journal. And he said that it is a statement of intent. On a real basic level, almost doubling the size of the training center. That itself is a nod to this is what is required. We are investing in an MLS that is rapidly improving. Total investment in the property will go up to $85 million. $85 million on the property. And construction is set to begin this summer, and it's set to take about a year. I think it'll be summer of 2025. And it'll be in time for a lot of other things. Club World Cup, all those things. Anybody wants to drop by, have practice, and do those kinds of things too. So any club that wants to knock on the door and sit there and go, I'm really interested. Can we come by and have practice? You can sit there and go, well, yeah, come on by. It'll be great. Good to see you. Enhancements also made to the Truist Pavilion, renovating second floor space, upgrading first floor locker rooms to meet professional standards, integrating the fields with the structures so it's a seamless flow, according to Garth Lagerwey. Enhancing club youth development, nearly 4,000 square feet devoted to the twos and the academy. So that's very cool. Dedicated gym, locker room, office space, 20-plus staff. Falcons opened a content studio at their practice facility in late 2022, and so Atlanta United set to do the same. And it's Garth says it's adding content production capability that is as ambitious as Apple is for Major League Soccer. I want to give the fans what they're asking for from a transparency, communications, and content production standpoint. So that's Brett McCormick catching up with Garth Lagerwey. So things being built. Yes, Michael, we are talking practice. We're talking practice. But, obviously with everything going on here in Atlanta over the next handful of years, having the additional facilities, getting ready for everything, necessity. And so it'll give another opportunity for Major League Soccer to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses are otherwise known as Atlanta United. So very, very cool stuff there in discussing what's going on with the addition to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground up in Marietta. So got that at 7:15 this morning. So happy Thursday, So happy Thursday. Here's some news. And that's only a part of all that's going on. So we'll talk about that, whatever's on your mind this morning as we roll forward. Had Champions League yesterday, and we've got Europa League today. So Europa League, Europa Conference League, all the news of the morning. For our resident Evertonians, there is some news involving the Premier League. But let's go to, and speaking of the Premier League, let's go to opening kickoff. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Our friend Melissa Ortiz, golden ticket status holder Melissa Ortiz, and our friends from Kickoff Coffee. That's the QR code. You hit the QR code, and that takes you to Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, they meaning Kickoff Coffee, and they reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked that is very, very cool. And it is at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Saw this and was instantly intrigued. And I know that there are times where we sit there and we give our resident Evertonians a bit of grief about ownership and all those kinds of things. But this was very, very cool. Saw this in The Guardian this morning. And the headline, get this, Newcastle is going to use, and this is the Luke Edwards headline, Newcastle to use groundbreaking shirts which allow deaf fans to feel the stadium atmosphere. Haptic technology transforms noise of the stadium into real-time touch sensation. It's going to be debuting at the Spurs match on Saturday. So, groundbreaking haptic shirts. So it'll allow deaf fans and those with hearing loss to experience the atmosphere at St. James Park for the first time in a live match. It transforms it into that real-time touch sensation. Fans and the match day mascots who are deaf or have hearing loss will be wearing the shirts in the stands. The idea came from the club's front of shirt sponsor, Selah, and I wish it was Furman Bisher, but they're missing the H. A Saudi Arabian events company. Salah is paying around £25 million a year to the club, which is majority owned by the PIF, as part of its Unsilence the Crowd campaign. Salah has donated its player shirt and pitch side branding to the Royal National Institute for Deaf People during this weekend's Premier League action at St. James Park, and they're also going to be making a cash donation to the charity. The idea is to improve fan accessibility to football through new technology, as well as showcase the work done by the Royal National Institute. And so the Royal National Institute says that 1 in 5 adults in the UK are deaf or have hearing loss, but people often face barriers in everyday life, including live sports events. It's fantastic to see Selah and Newcastle United leading the way and championing the technology, which has the potential to have a real and lasting impact on how people who are deaf and have hearing loss experience live events. And obviously, you can get into the criticism of the ownership and who it is and all this kind of stuff. Selah was brought in as a shirt sponsor at the start of this season, with Newcastle having to prove the deal represented fair market value to satisfy Premier League rules. And some, obviously, Luke Edwards says, obviously some folks are going to react with cynicism to the initiative, and it is, even though it is game-changing for possibly thousands of fans. So, initiative embraced by the Newcastle hierarchy, and they got a quote from Peter Silverstone in there, but very, very cool. I mean, when I saw this, I was like, okay, haptic technology. And so I'm literally having to scramble to figure out, haptic. Am I even pronouncing it correctly when it comes to what Newcastle wants to do with their shirts? And so very, very cool stuff with haptic technology. And looking up the definition, basically you have it. It's also kinesthetic communication or 3D touch. These are the other names. Technology that can create an experience of touch by applying forces, vibrations, or motions to the user. And it can be used to create virtual objects in a computer sim, control virtual objects, enhance remote control of machines and devices and such. And so haptic technology. You learn something new every day. I didn't even know, A, that existed, B, what the name of it was, and C, you end up with something like that. So very, very cool from our friends at it's very, very cool stuff from our friends at Newcastle and the Royal Institute. So keep an eye on it this weekend. So, yes, we talk about Newcastle a lot. We talk about all the stuff. And we put that to the side for a second. Very, very cool stuff using haptic technology And this weekend, I want to see how it's portrayed on the air. I want to see if they're going to be doing any kind of in-depth storytelling on it, those kinds of things. So morning to our friends at the O and B out on the left coast. West Coast is the best coast at 6:15 in the morning. And so Hutch reminds me, yeah, it's like vibration feedback on your cell phone. And Paris says it's the gaming version of haptic or the Ready Player One suits. And so that's what you're looking at here with the stuff from Newcastle. Okay. So, I was today years old when I learned all this kind of stuff, but very, very cool stuff from our friends at Newcastle. And so we take one segment after however many different times that we've sat there and we've ished on them for the ownership for various reasons. And we pulled that to the side because of this, and we'll see how it's portrayed this weekend. That's your opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, that's your QR code for those of you who are watching. However you are accessing us this morning, could be on the 280 character app, could be on our YouTube channel, and it could also be on Twitch. So Twitch, YouTube, and the 280 character app. That's the QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Click on that QR code. You go through to Kickoff Coffee. You kick off your day with them. You use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Housekeeping. That's the scarf, once again, from our friends to benefit the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Like I said, this is going to be something that we're going to be doing. And it's not just, it's like, Nelson's box is empty in the office. He's going to stop. No, this is helping out folks at the grassroots level from ground zero and from day one. And you probably bought the jersey. You probably bought the bucket hat. Bought the jersey, didn't buy the bucket hat. I'm not a bucket hat guy. But this was something that we came up with collaborating with Lloyd, Matt, and everybody with the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You can pick up the scarf and you can show it off. It is a summer scarf to help benefit the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation 32. And that is if you wish to have the Abstermobile deliver it to you, or you can see us at these tailgates and those kinds of things, and we can drop it off that way. DM the show, DM me, email me, text me if you got my phone number. I don't know how many of you do, but once again, $32, and it goes to benefit the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. If you want it shipped, tack on another $5, and so it's say $32 and $5 to get it shipped to you. Thanks to our buddy Hudson in Colorado. We've shipped to California. We've shipped to Alabama. We've shipped to Texas and Florida and a bunch of different places. But once again, thanks to our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation for letting us help. And so you can be a part of that too and show it off. And Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos. International modeling star on the Marshall Islands website. She and Liz calls it soccer. They're the ones that pieced all this together. So very, very cool stuff there. You can help out the Marshall Islands, and you can style and profile with a summer scarf to help out soccer being built from day one from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. So doing public service, Hutch posts the article from the Daily Mirror about the particular what's going on with the haptic technology in Newcastle. So required reading, buzz through, and learn more about haptic technology like I did. So like I said, I went to the Telegraph version. This is the Daily Mirror version, and that's where we are. David says and this is the other part that we were getting into this morning, because like I said, hope that a lot of you got through last night, because last night was kind of hairy in a lot of different parts. Jason and I were driving back from McIntosh from the match of the day. And traditionally, it's match of the week, but we had a Wednesday night special. We're supposed to have 4 matches this week, 4 different locations. Today, weather permitting, it's St. Pius Indicator 5:30, 7:30 on the network at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. But driving back yesterday from McIntosh, literally the main road that you take out of Peachtree City to connect to the freeway, I mean, it's a good 10 miles north. A lot of trees had blown a lot of stuff into the roads. And so it was a challenge getting home. And so David took the kids to the school this morning. If you're in town, be aware storm appears to have knocked out the turn signals on 70 to 70% of the vehicles on the road, or people just be driving like wonk wonk. So that's where we are. Jarrett,
we very specifically called it moron gas when we worked in traffic back in the day.
Yeah, more ice.
People already can't. I will reiterate what I have said on this show before is my mantra of driving.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be cautious, be predictable.
Mm-hmm.
If you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, don't be nice, be predictable.
Yes.
If you're driving, be predictable.
Mm-hmm.
You are behind 2,000 pounds, give or take, of pure metal ego.
Mm-hmm.
Please be predictable with what you do behind the wheel. Use your turn signals. Do not, in this weather, sit there and hug the right shoulder and pop both those
the hazards.
flashers on. Yeah,
Oh.
please, God, dude, just pull over. Ask for help.
Yeah, or don't even go out in the first place.
Yeah, that too. All of these are viable options.
Yes.
I'm sorry, a lifetime. Look, man, I spent a decade doing traffic in this city, almost, and to describe it as traumatizing is understating it because of some of the stupidity that we saw on the roadways.
Yeah, and I mean, traditionally, after nights like last night, where trees decide to just shed everything and go right in the middle of the road at various poundage levels. I mean, it is a drive defensively and driving predictably.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah, you got to think for yourself and everybody else. And then that way, we all get through it in one piece.
Yeah, if everyone will just into to the comment there, yes. Also, motorcycles. Like, I know it's kind of become its own meme of the look twice, save a life thing. But no, seriously, please do that.
Yes.
Yeah, please be careful around motorcycles, and you do actually need to check twice because most of the time with crashes with motorcycles, a lot of the times it is not the fault of the person on the bike. It is someone not paying attention. However, the person on the bike is going to catch the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. It was man. The weather was wild though last night. How about that weather, folks?
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we were calling the match down at McIntosh, and the wind changes direction, I think at least 3 separate times.
Mm-hmm.
We had one lightning flash 15 miles away. Didn't get any closer to us, so we didn't have any delays in the game or anything. But yeah, I mean, on the turf surface at McIntosh, you had puddles at the corner flags, and full credit to both Druid Hills and McIntosh for slogging through it. And
did anybody get hurt?
Not through meteorological means. No.
That's that. Okay, that I can live with. Like you get hurt playing the game. That's one thing. I just want to make sure like nobody's gonna dislocate a knee because their foot gave out because the surface was Passchendaele.
Yeah, no, it was a great surface at McIntosh, but of course, naturally toward the end of the broadcast. And toward the end of the broadcast, you end up with the wind blowing the rain into the press box. Yeah. And so trying to call a match, Jason's trying to call the match through plexi and about an inch opening where hopefully the wind and the water isn't there. And so it was a bit of an adventure with it in the second half late. Color me shocked.
Yeah, well.
And so, like I said, weather permitting today, St. Pius at Decatur 5:30 and 7:30 as the last week of the regular season has 2 more days attached to it. So we'll see what happens there. Led off with the breaking news with the training facility and the expansion there needed. And I initially thought that it was going to be, if they were going to expand, it was going to be down the road, closer, on the other side of the apartment complexes and things like that, where there was space that's just kind of there that's used for parking for parks and things. But no, it's going to be on the premises and on the property.
And this is something that you're going to see, I think, with other facilities as well, because now you're in a situation with the expansion of U.S. soccer in the Atlanta area. I think it gets very easy to just keep expanding things out. Because U.S. soccer is going to be on the south side. They're going to be making waves. Now you have a chance to expand things as well. And it's also going to hit other facilities and other clubs in the United States. They'll expand their training grounds, which is great. It's what you want to see. You want to see them with a chance to get bigger, to get better, to get more, to get better funding, to become more fun, to have nicer facilities. And this especially when you look at the timeline here, now you put Atlanta United's training facility in a great situation to be one of the go-tos for for the World Cup when they're here, and you're expanding out your facilities for your academy teams, your second teams. I know we've seen a lot of hubbub recently, and I don't know what's confirmed and what's not, so we're not going to pretend like we know.
Right.
About the expansion or not expansions, I shouldn't say, about changes to MLS Next Pro for next season.
Right.
But you do have to account for the fact that, like, you need to expand the profile of that entire league.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to happen.
Yeah.
You want it to become a bigger and better thing. Well, when you want those kind of things, it takes money. It takes investment. And you're getting that.
And you're seeing right now this season in MLS Next Pro, you're seeing clubs that are changing locations. It's like Los Dos is out in Ventura County, and so they're going away from being where their parent clubs are, trying to expand footprints. But with the twos here, you have the chance to almost reinforce where you are with your identity.
Yeah, and I haven't seen, I haven't seen anything in the notes about the showcase stadium at the train. If you've ever been to Atlanta United's training ground, or you can see it in the video that they posted on socials, there's the showcase stadium. It's a stadium that's kind of in the ground, that has some seating. The seat colors occasionally get a little colorful, and it gives me like PTSD to Silverback State Park.
Yeah.
There's just something about Silverbacks Park that will just traumatize you beyond all recognition. It's not safe for everyone, but I haven't seen anything specifically if you're going to expand that part out yet.
Yeah.
But if you do, then yeah, you run the potential of being able to play more there. If you can get depending on what you want to do, you could potentially be in a situation where you can put the hardware in place at that facility, so you can start doing more high quality broadcasts.
Yep.
For academy games, for twos games,
building number 2. That's what they're looking at.
Yeah, for anything that you want to do, you have the potential to expand all of that out, and it's very exciting. Haven't seen anything about like new teams. No, Ricky, we haven't seen that.
No, we have not. But once again,
I know especially after this last weekend. Anything that happens with this club and expansion is going to trigger excitement.
Yes.
It's called excitement.
Yes. It's anything involving expansion with property is going to involve speculation involving expansion and other things.
But I hope this is one of those things that it pushes other clubs to do the same thing, to expand more. There's a lot of really good training facilities around this country. Mm-hmm. Make them better.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not to say that they're not bad. They're great facilities. Make them even better. Yeah.
Seattle's got Starfire, and that started out. Seattle's got their new facility this year, and so we'll catch up with Niko at 10:30 and ask him about this. But yeah, to your point, one of the things I didn't mention, in addition to more than 500,000 square feet of playing surface, inclusive of 6 full-length fields and 2 warm-up areas. That is now what you're staring at. The expansion nearly doubles the footprint to 50,000 square feet. In addition to more than that 500,000 square feet of playing surface, inclusive of the 6 full-length fields and 2 warm-up areas. So you've got, all the first team bells and whistles. You've got the stuff involving the 2-floor expansion with the twos getting dedicated space, the academy getting dedicated space. And so that way you're not sitting there and trying to, let's see. The academy and the twos can have the weight room from 6:45 to 6:48 in the morning. One of those kinds of things. You get to actually make sure that everybody has their own space, does their own thing, and it was pretty wild.
Yeah,
it makes too much sense, and that they're getting after that and doing that. But yeah, and Michael,
it's very exciting.
We are going to talk about CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza last night. Yep, Michael says, didn't see the match, but apparently Messi and friends aged about 5 years, according to some reports. It was Brandon Vasquez taking advantage of an oopsie from Drake Callender. It wasn't pretty if you were a fan of Messi and friends last night. And it was Jordi Alba losing is cool, and ended up with 2 yellows, I think, in about a 4-minute period when they were trailing in a large margin. And so, yeah, Alba at one point, his first yellow came, and in the coming 2, he ended up putting his hand around a Monterrey player's throat. And
to be fair, that happens a lot in USA Mexico games, and we rarely ever see it given through a card. So I understand people in Miami having issues with him being sent off for that, because we have watched plenty of players from Mexico, both club and national team, put their hands around American players' throats, and nothing happened because we want to keep everyone on the field. Screw that.
That was the first yellow. I mean, that literally was his first yellow, and then 4 minutes later, he goes stud stomp on a Monterrey player's left ankle, and then that was it. And Jordi Alba was gesticulating wildly and going,
Dude, we've seen that. The thing is, we've seen that given with like literally no card at all. Is my thing.
Yeah, and scorecard says he saw the highlights, and Luis Suarez made a money sign to the ref and got a yellow.
Look, if you're gonna get a yellow, go earn the damn thing. This is like the philosophy of like, oh, he got a personal foul. Did he earn it? Oh, absolutely, 110%.
Get your money's worth.
Yeah, like he bruised that man's sternum. He's not going to be able to breathe right for 3 weeks. He earned it. Well, if you're going to get the card, go earn it. And Luis Suarez, what a shock! Luis Suarez was doing something potentially controversial.
Well, but
never seen that before.
But think about it. I mean, think about it. So, all right. So if Suarez makes the money sign to the center ref and got a yellow, wouldn't it benefit Victor Montagliani and CONCACAF in the hemispheric extravaganza if Messi and friends continued to advance?
But in that moment, you are in fact abandoning all logic because you're just mad because you're getting your ass beat in Mexico. Oof. It's a hot night potentially. I'm assuming. I didn't look at the forecast. Assuming it was a very humid night because Mexico.
Yes.
if nothing else, the air was probably incredibly heavy and thick and annoying to breathe in. Yeah. You're getting your ass beat. You're frustrated. You're not thinking about, actually, they should be wanting us to advance. How could they do this? Like, you're not thinking about it like that.
No.
Look, one of my favorite things that could potentially happen is that Miami just absolutely doesn't win a trophy this year. It would be hilarious if for no other reason. Hell, go look at like the polls that they did for the MLS leadership on the Athletic, where they're like, yeah, Miami's going to win this, that, the other. Like, they're going to pick Miami to win something until they don't, which is going to make it even funnier if they don't win something.
Yes.
I need to be amused. I am a simple human. I would have had far too much fun at the gladiatorial arenas being amused like a circus animal.
Staring at the lions and rooting for them. Jason?
Yes.
Good morning. And we know that you are, how do we say this? Electronically challenged this morning. Are you still lacking power?
Yeah, probably won't have power until sometime tonight, hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah, it went out while we were doing the game down in Peachtree City yesterday, and it's weird in the complex that I'm in. I'm assuming that either a tree or a branch or what have you took out like a very specific line because there's power for some and there's not power for others, and maybe it's not a simple fix because it's going to be a while, they said.
Well, yeah, and you got to get in the queue too. So it'd be like serving number 37. Oh, it's this house in an apartment complex somewhere. So you got to wait for your number to be served. Before we get into all the other things, when you came in, we were discussing what happened last night in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, where it was a long night for the Herons in Monterrey.
Well, without power, I have not had a chance to catch up on this match, but I am not surprised. Monterrey is legit, and we talk about the Messi effect all the time, and I think some people over expect on the Messi effect. He is one man. He's not Superman, even though he plays like it sometimes.
Yeah.
So that team, as it's fully constructed, is not really at the same level as a Monterrey to my mind. I think Monterrey might not have a Messi, but they have more balance. And we've had this conversation before about CONCACAF, where from a big picture perspective, what's the line that people use all the time? Like, oh well, Club America and Monterrey, they've got 10 designated players.
Yeah, the Caleb Porter line. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not exactly how it goes. I would be trying to come up with a good line too after I got trounced the way that New England got trounced.
I was about to say, Caleb Porter went right back in the doghouse after winning his promise game against Charlotte. So
yeah, I don't know if he got out of the doghouse, but they have more balance, and they do have more top end in some cases. Probably not as much as Miami and the top 3 players, but then the next 3 are a decent bit better. And then the next 3, I think, when you're talking about a Miami especially, are a whole lot better. And that's where you start to see the change. It's not players, honestly, to me, across the board, it's not players 1 through 6 generally. It's more of players 6 through 14 where you're seeing that difference. And look, the proposed rules that are on the table that might take effect for Major League Soccer in mid-season start to address a little bit of that. They can create a little more flexibility for teams to be stronger throughout the middle as well as the top end, and have a few different ways to construct how they want. But to me, the biggest thing that's going to need to change when we talk about CONCACAF is you're going to have to see more teams be able to develop good talent within their academies.
Mm-hmm.
I think the easy fix that everybody's going to point to is just spend more money. And yes, the league needs to spend more money, and they will. But the way that you can compete with these kinds of teams on a regular basis is you take it out of all right, I'm going to go spend on this player, and I hope that he doesn't get hurt, and I hope that he's a good fit for my locker room, and I hope that everything works out. You develop guys from within, and you have to get to that point. You can't sacrifice your long-term development for chasing a big signing. And I don't think Miami's done that. I want to be clear. I think Miami, as a very young club, has developed some guys and some good players. David Ruiz is a player that I love in this league, and he's one who was suspended for this game because of a bad second yellow. They've done a good job as a young club in developing guys, but across the board for MLS, it's not purely spending more, it's developing as well.
Yeah, so before we get into Training Ground and She Believes and NYC and Philly, since we've gone down this road with you, the proposed ideas, you have the possibility, or the option to have 3 DPs, 3 U22s, or 2 and 4, and you get $2 million in GAM. So the option is there either way.
Yep.
The idea also that you get the second get out of jail free card with a player. You sit there and it's like, nope. And you go from 1 to 2. This was a bad idea. Then you can jettison 2 instead of 1. And then the other notions. When you looked at these 3 basic tenets that were brought to the table that were approved by the BOG, but still have to be approved, obviously, by the Players Association. You mentioned one, but what do you think about the others?
I like them. I think the more roster flexibility that you can create is a good thing. And we've talked about it a lot over the years since the U22 initiative came in, making it to where it's 3 and 3 if that's what you want to do. That's a good thing because that's increasing the spending across the board. I like the flexibility if teams don't want to go with 3 designated players. Okay, you can get an additional U22 player. If that suits your strategy, okay, cool. And you get some extra GAM, which gives you basically another good player in the middle of that roster that you can go get if you want to go that way. Or you can go with 3 and 3. You've got flexibility. I like the ability in a cap league specifically to be able to get out of contracts, whether it's due to injury, due to bad fit, what have you. I like where they're headed. And I know everybody's going to say more. I get it. I understand. But you can't do that in midseason. Midseason, you can do these kinds of moves. More is going to take a longer conversation with the MLS Players Association. And they need to be on board with this.
Yes.
They really need to be on board with this because it will serve their current members. I don't want to see the MLSPA be maybe lukewarm on these kinds of things because then new people would be coming into the league that might hurt some of their existing members. People might get replaced. If you go and upgrade talent, there's going to be guys who are not at that level and are going to get bumped.
Mm-hmm.
for the good of the game, it has to be across the board that we invest more in the talent in this league. But like I said at the beginning, that cannot be totally at the expense of developing your own talent, because that's the game changer for teams, in my opinion. You're going to miss on some signings.
Yeah.
You're going to miss on bringing guys in. You can control to a point, and I think you can control it a lot more than your random signings. You can control your development process, and that's something they're going to have to do right.
All right, Jared, on the rundown, where do you want to go next?
I don't know. Just being on top of things.
You got training facility.
Yeah, let's talk training facility, because we just got done talking about that, and the changes to the training facility, the investment that's incoming, and hopefully more clubs do the same and start investing in building up their training grounds, and we end up with even more world-class facilities in this country.
Yeah, I think they have been. I think Atlanta was ahead of the curve on this and building a very top level training facility that would be suitable in really any country in the world. And you've seen others follow suit. I think New England is the prime example of a club that has followed Atlanta's lead. And look, maybe that's Arthur Blank making sure that Robert Kraft knows, hey, I've got a soccer team. I should probably invest in it, because they have. And that's a good thing. And I think Arthur has shown that if you invest and you do things properly, you're going to get a return on your investment. And it has to be seen as an investment. I think at times we just look at it like, it's just spending. No, it's an investment. And in this case, this is going to be an investment across quite a few different areas of the club. You're going to be able to more comfortably have teams come in and train there and not disrupt the first team, because you'll have the extra space. You're going to be able to, have more for your second team, more for your academy, more dedicated spaces inside to allow guys to recover better. You're going to have the classroom kind of space for the academy kids, but also to be able to sit down and do more video analysis with players on the first and second team. It's big across the board. And in the studio space, I mean, this is a club that has already invested a lot in terms of digital. And I think you've seen that return on investment. The fan base has, I think the sponsors have as well. And you're going to be able to do even more now, having that dedicated studio space inside the building.
Yeah, I have these visions now of you and the Hoff a couple of years in the new studio space, going completely and totally more off the rails than you do now.
Well, I mean, we're kind of liking doing these shoots out in the wild and getting creative with it. The one this week should be very entertaining if it comes out the way that I think it did from our shoot yesterday. It's fun and doing that stuff, like, and being able to be creative with it and have fun with it. I hope it comes off to the fan base and they enjoy it as well. I mean, that's the whole goal. But when you give these very talented, basically filmmakers, more toys to work with and more space to work in, yeah, I think you're going to get some gold out of it.
Yeah, I just have this vision of the two of you with green screens and motion technology and these kinds of things, superhero kind of deals. I'm looking forward to it. So, and they say
that give Jason a Marvel green screen.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
If we have a green screen, things could get really out of hand.
Yes.
Really, really out of hand.
And they're saying
that's the point.
They're saying it's going to take a year. That they said it should be ready by summer of 25. So, looking forward to that. Have you even had the chance to recover from your She Believes Saturday yet?
I was telling Joe yesterday as we were talking about it. I don't know if I'm weird in this way or if this is normal, but I almost felt like a delayed reaction to tiredness.
Mm-hmm.
Like Saturday was just so. I mean, I was tired at the end of the day Saturday. When I got home at about 2:45 in the morning and like home. After calling 2 games and flying back and forth to New York, I was really tired. But then I woke up like normal time and Sunday was okay. And Monday was really busy with everything we did with the training center opening. And it's almost like Tuesday, I felt like I hit a wall.
Yeah.
And would have just been dragging ever since. It was crazy. I mean, it was amazing, but it was really crazy that that I did it and that everything lined up to be able to do it. I mean, I think everybody who listened to the women's national team game on 92.9 The Game, we got great feedback from people who listened. It was piped into the stadium, and a lot of people heard it. And yeah, it was the first time that the women's national team's been on English language radio, maybe any radio for the women. Um, that's crazy to me. Like, that doesn't feel like something that should be. It shouldn't be the first time in 2024.
Yeah.
It is. And I hope that we get to do a lot more with it. I hope everybody on the federation side was really happy with it. And in the game in New York, I mean, getting there, basically walking in right before the anthem starts in the booth, and having to really hustle across the parking lot to get in there because my cab got stuck on the corner at 720. And I'm like, all right, do I see if he can get through this traffic or do I just hightail it? And I hightailed it and got literally from there into the booth. I sat down right before the anthem was getting ready to start. So, yeah, it was nuts.
Jarrett, go for it. I'm laughing.
All right. Well, aside from that, let's talk about this week. All that's in the past. You have a game this Sunday back home. You're digging into your depth, and you have the last team coming into the league that has not lost a match this week with Philadelphia. What are you looking for into this game, Jason?
I think for the team to, even with the absences that they're gonna have to be very brave on the ball. And when you look back at the last two times they've played Philadelphia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I think that's been the hallmark of the way that they've played. You know, even the scoreless draw in 22, the win in 23, both times they basically had a little bit of a, I don't know, a blank you attitude about the press. They didn't care. They weren't worried about it. They didn't panic. Then they played through it. And I think you can do that even with the pieces that you're missing. You know, it's going to be, I would assume, Noah Cobb and Luis Abram. I asked Noah about his increased confidence getting a series of starts in a row, and he said, you know, I've noticed it, and he echoed it. He's picking out passes further up the field. He's more comfortable to not settle for the simple pass. He's looking to break lines. Getting these games will help make him ready for a game like this against Philadelphia. Luis Abram on the ball, very, very good with his left foot. You have nothing to worry about there. And he looked very good in the intra-squad scrimmage on Tuesday as well. He played a good bit since he didn't play in New York to get his sharpness up. He looked very good on Tuesday with the ball, specifically like switching the point of attack. And that's going to be the key, especially if Philly comes out and does what they did in the second half against Nashville. They went back to their 4-4-2 diamond, which they hadn't been doing. And we know they kind of alternate back and forth between 4-3-3. And sometimes they will play three center backs. They've done that a little bit more over the past couple of years. But the 4-4-2 diamond is, to me, that's quintessential Philadelphia Union under Jim Curtin. And if they do that, then that means there is going to be opportunities out wide to switch. And we've seen this team have a lot of success when they've done that in general. So you're going to have to look at that. And I think Cobb and Abram are going to be two of the main players. Slish as well, but I think he's going to get maybe bottled up a little bit in that diamond. If Cobb and Abram can hit the big switches to the opposite wings or fullbacks, especially with Lennon getting up high, Atlanta can open Philadelphia up.
So we've talked about the back. Let's talk about the front. Jamal gets 3 goals. And if you look at the replay of the goal that he scored against NYC, I mean, he was laboring as he was running to make contact on the header to put the ball in the back of the net. So you won't have Jamal for another couple of weeks. Obviously, recovery will dictate how long this is. They were saying 2 to 4, but once again, it's recovery. Do we have any kind of an update on Gigi or Rios to be there at the 9?
Rios is good to go. I think with Daniel, it was a little bit of a combination of just really getting back into full rhythm because he wasn't playing consistently at Chivas. And you can train and you can do cardio and all of that, but if you're not playing, it's a different toll on your body. And I think he didn't feel right after those minutes in Toronto, and they wanted to be very, very careful with him. And that's why, even to the point that I think he was going to be in New York and gonna be part of that, and then they held off just to be sure. And I think that's going to pay off this week, honestly, because I think he's fully ready to go. He played on Tuesday in that scrimmage. Didn't notice any issues with him at all. Didn't notice any limitations with him. I don't know about Giakoumakis at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I think it's been described as more of a bone bruise. There wasn't anything structural. Bone bruises are really odd to try to put timelines on, because a lot of it depends on exactly where it is and how much it is affected by movement.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, just going back and thinking through the actual injury, I'm pretty sure that it's like right around the knee, I think below the knee.
Mm-hmm.
So every step, every bend of the knee, anytime you run, anytime you put weight on that leg, you're going to feel that. It's really difficult. Gigi's a pretty tough guy. So if he's able to go, he's going to go and give you something. I don't know what he's going to be able to give. He did not participate in that scrimmage on Tuesday, which doesn't mean that he won't be able to go on Sunday, but we'll find out more tomorrow when Gonzalo Pineda speaks to the media.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind?
I guess as well, I wanted to ask sorry.
What are you giggling about?
No, I'm just thinking about like trying to keep Gigi off the field on a scrimmage probably involves multiple chains, possibly.
There might have been a straitjacket. There might have been. I did not see it, but yes, I think it probably was not easy to keep him off the field.
So I want to ask you about a guy that we know well, but people might not know as well if they haven't seen Tuesday's games. I imagine he's going to be part of this conversation until guys get healthy, in Efrain Morales, just in case people see him, what to expect when they see them, so they can be the hipsters in their lives and feel really cool when they explain who he is to people. Yeah,
you definitely want that. You want to be really cool to be able to say those things to people before they are commonly thrown around the Bird app, or is it still the Bird app? Is it the X app? Whatever.
I just call it the decomposing app. Bird at this point.
That works. Wow. The dead bird app. Yeah, it is. You always want to be cool in those spaces, so we'll give you what you need to know. Efrain is, for one, over the past 2 years, he's finally healthy. And look, this is a young player who's got a lot of games of experience under his belt, but he's a young player who had, I think, literal growing pains. I mean, he's a big guy. And when you have those growth spurts as an athlete, you're going to have some injuries. Some guys more than others. I think everybody deals with it. And it's something that is fascinating when you look at player development and you really get into the weeds of it. And you start to get into the physical side of player development, because typically we're talking about tactics, we're talking about technique, we're talking about experience, but the physical side for everybody. And I think we saw it with George Bello when he had an injury. He had a groin injury that was nagging, eventually had to be surgically repaired. Caleb Wiley, with being able to play 90 minutes. It was hard for him because he would go, and he'd run himself into the ground too early. Everybody's different. And I think with Efrain, it was more substantial, the literal growing pains. So it was hard to get him on the field and keep him on the field. But the last couple of years, he's played over 20 games with Atlanta United 2 consistently. This preseason, he was very, very good with the first team. They did make the conscious decision, and I think it was the right one, because of having Abram, having Cobb being in the form that he was in preseason as well, having Gregerson, having Williams. That's 4 center backs. They sent Morales back to the second team, I think, the last week of preseason. So he was able to be with them, and he's played their 2 games so far. And I thought he was outstanding, and he showed a lot of physical and mental toughness to come back from Toronto and be able to go 90 minutes in that last Tuesday game against Carolina Core. Well, now with Gregerson recovering from a meniscus injury, with Williams out with a calf, That's 2 of your 4 out. So that means it's Cobb and Abram, and that means Morales is your number 3. It also means if he doesn't play on Sunday, he's probably going to play on Monday.
Yep.
And be ready to go for Atlanta United too, because he needs to get those games and be able to keep developing. It's this weird balance with young guys of managing the tactical exposure, the technical development, the physical development, and keeping them sharp and getting games. I think what we've seen from Efra is he's rounded in who he is. He's physical. He's great in the air. He is very good with the ball at his feet. He's got that big switch with his right foot out wide to the right or the left. And I think what I'm starting to notice that I didn't see in the past is a little bit of a mean streak. And that's good. It's an intimidation factor. And it's something that I think he has started to grow into. He's going to be bigger than a lot of guys he's going up against. And he's learning how to use that effectively. And that's a good spot to be in for a ball-playing center back. I mean, at his heart, he's a soccer player. He's not just a big guy who can play center back. He's a soccer player who can play center back and knock you over. I like that combination that he gives you. And set pieces, he's proven to be a really good weapon in those areas as well.
I know that you are both electricity challenged and electricity dependent. I don't want you to burn all of your batteries here in this particular segment. So we'll just go ahead and say, what are the broadcast plans for the match this weekend?
So we are on Star 94, pregame coverage, 5 Stripes Countdown, 1:30 with Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman. 2:40 kickoff, so not the normal Fox kick, which it's much later. This one's going to be 2:40. We're on Star 94 on the Odyssey app. If you're not going to be in the building and you're watching on Apple TV, you can listen to us synced up there with the home team radio option. And then we'll have the full-time report afterwards. Mike and I will head down to the locker room. We'll get some exclusive interviews for you guys there. You can always listen to that as a podcast as well if you don't catch it live. And then I've got some Atlanta-centric jams for your ride home on Star 94 afterwards.
There you go. I hope and pray that you are not 37th in line to get your power restored to the casa and the office. I hope that you get accelerated up the line and get your power back soon. Weather permitting, we will be at Decatur for 5:30 and 7:30 with St. Pius and Decatur on the Mixlr app as well, eh?
Yes, we will. And when you already get text that they're not expecting to have the power back on until at least 7 p.m., it's not a good line. That line's pretty bad. It's not a good setup. It's not a good look. But
Well,
we will be, if weather permitting, Decatur High School, St. Pius Decatur, 5:45 and 7:45, I think, for these. Might be 6 and 8. We'll see. Yep. Either way, be ready to roll on Mixlr at about 5:45. And then tomorrow we're Gainesville and Johnson, a really good rivalry up in Hall County. That is at 6 and 8. Saturday for me, I'll be on the Atlanta United U19 game at 4 o'clock. That'll be on the Atlantic Soccer Media Group YouTube page. I'll share the link for that. I'm really fascinated on that one with all of my broadcasts coming up, and then first team and then second team on Monday. I'm going to get to see the whole gamut Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You mentioned the injuries, like it is a knock-on effect. So you're going to see Morales, for example, on the bench with the first team on Sunday. If he doesn't play, he'll play for the second team on Monday. But if he plays on Sunday, then you've got to have an academy player from the 19s probably be ready to go on Monday for the 2s. So that affects your 19 roster, which means you might be dipping into the 17s for the 19s. And yeah, there you go. The accordion starts to open and close, and it gets a little funky.
All right, so let me see if I've got this right. High school, high school, high school, high school, U19 first team, second team.
So high school last night, high school tonight, high school Friday, U19 on Saturday, first team on Sunday, second team on Monday.
Playoffs after that for high school.
Probably high school on Tuesday. Then I'm doing a speaking engagement on next Wednesday. That's pretty cool. And then high school and games, and I don't know. Just tell me where to be.
Exactly. You and me both, brother. Like I said, just make sure that everything stays charged. We'll catch up with you soon, and we'll see you, hopefully, weather permitting, at Decatur.
Adios.
There you go. That's Jason. Jason survived a half hour of the Inquisition from me and Jarrett. That gets us to hour number 2. Once again, hopefully you have your power and you have everything restored from last night. We know that it was dicey among diciness. And so, like I said, weather permitting. And thank you, KFC, for bookmarking the Mixlr page. That's probably the way to go about it. This is the full handle. Basically, go to Mixlr, mixlr.com. And if, you want to bookmark it as KFC has done, just go to Mixlr, download the Mixlr app, and then you can follow Soccer Down Here. But if you go on the web, it's soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. But the easier thing to do, maybe over time, download the Mixlr app, bookmark Soccer Down Here on the lives. So that way, when we're live, all you got to do is go to the Mixlr app, you hit your notifications, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, you got the game, and you're off and running. But the website right there, soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. They've been great this season for all of our lives. But yeah, the next little bit for us at the network is the 4 matches, weather permitting, with high school this week. And then obviously Jason gets the U19s. I might go up and just see the U19s on Saturday. First team on Sunday, second team on Monday. That'll be on the network. And then high school starts with their playoffs. And then it ends up with us going all over the place, doing more high school stuff, then getting ready for Cincinnati coming up on the weekend. So odds are pretty stout that there's going to be a match of some degree on the network 5 to 6 days a week for the next couple of weeks because of high school and the twos and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, right there. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. Easiest thing to do is just download the Mixlr app, and then that way you can go, okay, boom, click, boom, and then you're good to go. So do that. Download the Mixlr app, and you can get everything squared away that way. All right, hour number 2. Actually, let me show you. I've actually downloaded the Mixlr app, and I actually did it, and it succeeded. So here, let me show you what it looks like. So Mixlr right there, and right there is what it looks like. Mixlr app right there. So let me get it out of the reflection of the key light. But yeah, right there. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. That's what it looks like on the Mixlr app. So boys and girls, Pius and Decatur, weather permitting today, because I've seen forecasts where it's supposed to be rain and thunderstorms and 72 and all this kind of stuff, but that's where we are. All right. So apparently KFC has said that, Hutch needs more coffee. You read that as somewhere down here. Well, that's honestly, Hutch, you're probably not too far off. We are somewhere down here every single day. We start off here in the studio, and then we're out, calling matches and going all over the place. So, all of that. So there you go. All right. Hour number 2. And we got stuff in the Premier League. Niko Moreno joining us at bottom of the hour, last half hour of the show. And we can get through everything from the Pacific perspective, run through the juice boxes, and get ready for the matchups this weekend from Niko's perspective. Tomorrow, efforting an interview with our friends at Carolina Core as they get ready for MLS Next Pro. If we can catch up with them in time, we'll run it in tomorrow's show. Otherwise, we'll run it independently, post it to the app as a 1v1 to get everybody updated. Obviously, also, we get to hear from Ian Cameron, and if we get sound from Coach Cameron, we'll run that tomorrow as well. Our friends from Beyond Goals at 9:30, and then 10 o'clock weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. That's your Friday. And then we race up to Bobby Gruen Field and City Park, and we get to keep an eye on Johnson, Gainesville, and Gainesville. KFC, yes, you do need more kickoff coffee. We all need more kickoff coffee. By the way, since you said you need more kickoff coffee, how about I do this to help you out? Right there. There you go. There's your QR code. Once again, for those of you who are watching, you can hit that QR code. You can get you to kickoff coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15, KFC, and you get 15% off your purchase. So there you go. Hour number 2. We got some stuff in the Premier League to talk about. And our resident Evertonians, may not necessarily be happy/pleased to hear about this kind of stuff. Paul Joyce from the Times and other places. Headline: Prospective Everton owners request more time to repay most of the £158 million loan. Financial resources of 777 Partners come under more scrutiny, with the company scrambling to repay MSP Sports Capital in time for the Monday deadline. So this is not looking good, again, with 777. They'd been due to repay the vast majority of that loan to MSP and two local businessmen by Monday, George Downing and Andy Bell, in line with conditions laid down by the Premier League. Now, 777 is prompting the company to ask more time. In return, it's prepared to provide funding for day-to-day running costs until the end of the season, which is about $60 million. So this is, once again, the wimpy way of going about it. We will gladly keep everything running on a day-to-day so we can get something done later. And they struck the deal, remember, to buy Farhad Mashiri's 94% stake. They've loaned about $180 million to cover monthly payroll expenses and costs toward the club's new stadium at Bramley-Moore Dock. The bridging finance would take the commitment to closer to $240 million, but it remains to be seen whether the source of the $180 million has been exhausted, which would then raise questions of where that $60 million would come from. And remember, we've done stories in the past, and we caught up with our friends at Josemar Football, and the interest rates that 777 has been given in the past so they can have capital to function have been astronomical. North of 25%, north of 30% in some instances. But that's what they have taken to continue to stay afloat with some of their other elements and resources and offshoots of their company. Premier League said last month it was minded, in quotation marks, to approve the takeover, subject to, with conditions, deadline of April 15th for the repayment of the loan being one of those conditions. Other conditions for 777 include turning their loans into equity. Downing and Bell, who are the security agents for Bramley-Moore Dock, owed about $50 million. MSP due to about $80. Mashiri contributed to the loan, not known whether MSP, Downing, and Bell will grant the request. It's like, no, we want our money, or, yeah, we'll give you more time. What's in it for us? Because you don't just sit there and say, yeah, we'll check off on this idea. No, it's what's in it for us. Everton and 777's reps have been confident of meeting the deadline. Now they're not. Renewed uncertainty once again. Everton docked another 2 points. And then you also have the other discussion, which could hold them into points deductions next season. But then the folks that got relegated might have a thought of, well, okay, if it impacts the relegation fight, if the third case next year that will happen during the offseason would impact Everton's 2023-4 point total, then the folks who get relegated, specifically that third club with the highest point total, if they were to be affected, that might have raising the people's eyebrow at that particular club. And so you've got folks looking at this third negotiation / discussion between Premier League independent agent and Everton. That happens during the offseason. If Everton is up and a points deduction wouldn't impact anything, you might not get a stink. If it does impact things, you definitely are going to get a stink. Because remember what happened with Derby County and the championship in League One and Wickham and all those folks. You could have the same thing happening here if Everton was to be relegated. Or if they were not relegated, you end up with another points deduction, and it could create issues. So that's what you're staring at with Everton for time number 3 when it comes to what folks are looking at. Yes, yes, Hutch, absolutely. Confidence-inducing and turning water into wine. I don't know if 777 has been able to do that yet. They seem to be having issues with the recipe of turning water into wine so they can buy Everton. But who knows? Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that with all that is going on in the Premier League. And speaking of the Premier League, we actually have a rules thing going on. They're going to use the clubs have approved this morning. They have approved the use of offside technology. So you're going to have semi-automated offside technology next season, and this is from Matt Slater. Unanimously approved the use of semi-automated offside technology. The top flight will use the same cameras and software UEFA uses in Champions League, slightly different from the technology FIFA has, where a match ball with a chip inside provides all the data. The Premier League confirmed in a statement that it believes the semi-automated offside technology will be ready to use following one of the autumn international breaks. The league's already in talks with several companies about providing the technology. Premier League believes the use of the semi-automated will save around 31 seconds per decision, a half a minute. Hopes the introduction will bring an end to situations where play continues after a possible offside, because the ARs have been instructed to keep their flags down before then being brought back sometime later after an attack has ended. So since the implementation of VAR, according to Slater in 2019, offsides have been subject to a review process. VAR manually calibrating offside lines with freeze frames of when the ball last touched an attacker and all of that. So Premier League came out with a statement, and it was 3 sentences long. So there you go. So the Premier League is now next season at some point heading into semi-automated technology for calibrating offsides. They say it's going to save them. It's going to save them some time, but who knows? So we'll see what happens with the semi-automated technology and what's going on in the Premier League. Well, and Hutch. Hutch says, next up, portable GPS blockers worn by fans. Well, wouldn't you want them in the jerseys or in the monitoring harness inside the player? Wouldn't you want the player to be the one with the GPS blocker? I think that would be what you would be looking for in that kind of a situation. But, yeah, we'll see. So, yeah, last night, no real concerns if you are a fan of Pachuca. Pachuca handled Herediano to advance. And, yeah, Monterrey last night, Brandon Vasquez scores in the 31st minute. And it was a one-goal game up until that point in the aggregate. So Brandon Vasquez, Drake Callender has an absolute howler of a pass going forward. Literally, Vasquez might be 7 yards in front of him. And as Callender is trying to start the play from inside his own 18, ends up passing it directly to Vasquez. Vasquez puts it in the back of the net, and it's then 1-0, and it's a 2-goal advantage. That's how it was at the half. Berterame and Gajardo score 6 minutes apart, and by then it was 5-1 in the aggregate, and then it just kind of fell off the rails for the final 25 minutes or so. We mentioned what Jordi Alba had to experience last night. Literally, he had a coming together, and he wasn't happy. There was a Monterrey player who was down after contact, and Jordi Alba had fouled him. Monterrey player, as Alba is trying to walk a circle around the guy and continue playing, kind of lashes out a little bit. The Monterrey player does kick out. Jordi Alba took exception. Monterrey player gets on his feet. They have a bit of a coming together. Jordi Alba takes his hand, puts it on the Monterrey player's throat. Yellow card. Then the second yellow, a handful of minutes later, he stomps on the guy. It was north of the instep. I mean, it was that far north. And Jordi Alba was having none of it. But he stomped on him. Second yellow. Jordi Alba goes. But, yeah, my point about Luis Suarez, I mean, come on now. It's like, dude, if CONCACAF really wanted to do the money sign to their center refs, they'd keep you in the tournament. And there was the hue and cry that we saw on the 280 character app about what's Major League Soccer and having problems, and you've got to unleash the hounds financially, and you've got to do this, you got to do that. Dave Denholm made the point on the play-by-play voice for LAFC. He made the point after Inter Miami loses to Monterrey publicly. It's like, did you not see what happened the night before with Crew and their win over Tigres? I mean, literally, and as Jason said, you've got your 1 through 6, but then it's 6 through 14, and you also have the coaching that's involved. And this once again continues to reinforce how Wilfried Nancy is with the top team in Major League Soccer right now. They are top team, TEAM, full, complete, total composite team. And so they advanced into the next round. And it's like, with all of these things that you were staring at, it's like, you kind of just put it to the side. Yeah, they took him into penalties for it to happen. Patrick Schulte came up big. He's now being looked at by Chelsea, and once again, and other folks in the Premier League. So, it's like they just kind of forgot about the Crew. It's like you forgot about Crew, and so on the left-hand side, you're going to have in the semis Pachuca and Club America. The right-hand side, it is Crew and Monterrey. So in a way, you do get hell is real in a roundabout way, because Brandon Vasquez going up against Columbus Crew all over again. But so that's the semifinals. Left-hand side is Pachuca and Club America, and it is Crew and Monterrey. And that is what you're looking at. The final in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza set for June 2nd. And you are looking for the competitions now. So it's for Messi and Friends. It's up to Leagues Cup and the Real Deal for Major League Soccer. So that's what Messi and Friends have now left on the table to try and win this season with Major League Soccer. But yeah, it was a long night last night if you were a fan of Messi and Friends. And the lineup, and this is, once again, this is where a lot of folks were yelling at Messi and Friends about how the team came out there last night. And the larger point, I think, in this, once again, going back to what Jason was mentioning, let's go back and we'll look at that starting 11. We'll look at that starting 11. But Inter Miami chose this path. They chose this path. They wanted to go top heavy, score all over the place, and here's who we are. We're going to try and outscore you, and defense, bit of an afterthought. So it was a 5-3-2, 3-5-2, however you want to phrase it. Starting 11 up top, Suarez and Messi. You had Gomez, Busquets, Gressel. And so it's probably ending up more like a 4-3-3 if you twist Gressel to the right and have him on the wing, and so 5-2-3, whatever. Backline: Jordi Alba, Noah Allen, Nicola Freire, Aviles, and Wygant, the player that you've loaned within the last week and a half from Boca Juniors. So that's your lineup. But you chose this path, if you are Messi and Friends, to have Suarez, Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba, and the rest of the band. Your bench, and this was where a lot of folks were sitting there and staring at it last night. CJ Dos Santos, your backup keeper. You had Jensen, Sailor, Negri, Karamaski, and obviously Messi and Friends fans are glad that Benjamin Karamaski is now back from hernia surgery. Lawson Sunderland, Bright, Leo Alfonso, and Schneider Borgelin. But once again, we get into the whole thing about the cap and where you are. And right now, what you choose to invest in with a cap of $3.8 million, you wanted to go top heavy. You wanted to go offense heavy. This was your path. You chose it. Compare this path to Columbus. Compare those paths. What's different? Columbus, from top to bottom, better team. Talent, Messi and Friends. Team construct, approach, Columbus. So everybody who's sitting there saying that you've got to, pull the governor out of the golf cart, everybody can spend whatever they want, whatever. But we still maintain you've got to have a floor. But once again, better team right now, Columbus. Wilfred Nancy and his team with their construct. That is why they're in the semifinals. Yes, it took some saves in the penalty stage from Schulte, but once again, you got to that point because of what you constructed. So there you go. I know a lot of folks are looking at all the other stuff, but 3 of the 4 teams, Liga MX and Columbus Crew. Like I said, we'll catch up with Niko coming up in about 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll get his thoughts on Messi and Friends and the week that was, and get you ready for the weekend that will be. Whatever's on your mind, Thursday thoughts. Can be Atlanta United, could be about the training facility, could be about Champions League, which was half past crazy yesterday. And you've got I mean, how many of us, and for those of you who had, going back to the Manchester City match, Manchester City, Real Madrid, the total of 6 in the juice box was almost a plus 500. So you had that, but it continued yesterday in Champions League with the results that were there. And obviously the reverses are coming up in short order. But Barca and PSG, they traded haymakers for a while. So Barca wins 3-2 at a plus 242 on the road at the Parc des Princes. And once again, we are one match away from PSG going deep into a playoff structure, but no further. Barca wins 3-2. Atletico Madrid wins 2-1 over Dortmund at a minus 119. So you had 10 goals day 1. You had 8 goals day 2. 18 goals in 4 matches in Champions League. So Manchester City has the advantage going home. Bayern Munich has the advantage going home because of road goals. Barca has the advantage since they won by 1. Dortmund's got some work to do going home. So it will be interesting in the next go round of these next week. Barca an early favorite at home. And this is to win the match, not to win the actual quarterfinal. Dortmund favored at home. Bayern Munich favored at home slightly. Manchester City is the only favorite right now on the minus side at home for the matchups next week. So Manchester City, once again, you flip. So if you had the late one this week, you have the early one next week. Manchester City gets that extra day to prep for Real Madrid at home at the Etihad, having scored 3 on the road. So, Michael, you might be right, but you might. I get my competitions confused with road goals and things. So, but still, so you got work to do either side. So, wouldn't all these rules? Who needs rules? But either way, looking at competitions with results, you didn't lose it in the first leg. Man City didn't lose it. Bayern didn't lose it. Barcelona certainly didn't lose it. And Madrid, Atletico Madrid at home, gave themselves a 1-goal cushion heading into the match on the road trip at Dortmund. But so that's where you are with all of that activity. Today you've got Europa League, and we'll get into what to watch, where to watch at Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo before Niko gets here. Europa League, all of them are at 3:00. Milan favored at home against Roma. Bayer Leverkusen, big favorite at home against West Ham. No real surprise. Benfica favored at home against Marseille. All of these are on the minus side. Liverpool, big favorite at home against Atalanta. And those playoffs would continue a week from today when you look at Europa League. Europa Conference League, these are the ones that you end up with at 12:45 and at 3:00. You get 2 at 12:45. Olympiacos, slight favorite at home against Fenerbahce. News about Fenerbahce. I don't know if you guys saw this with the Turkish Super Cup final. We'll get into that since Fenerbahce got mentioned. Victoria Pilsen, underdog at home against Fiorentina. Those are at 12:45. 3:00, Villa hosting Lille on the minus side at 1:45, and Club Brugge at a minus 106. They are a favorite against PAOK Salonika at a plus 282. Did you see this with the Turkish Super Cup final? This was wild. You've got clubs that are just mad in general, and you end up with the Turkish Super League final, and you end up with a team that just kind of wandered off. It's just you wandered off in the competition because of scheduling conflicts and wanting things pushed back. They'd been pushed back more than once. You were like, nope. So Galatasaray ends up taking the Super Cup final. Fenerbahce conceded, basically. They fielded a U19 team in protest. They're that mad at their league. And remember, Fenerbahce almost had they almost had the vote about pulling out of the Turkish league in general because of all of the fan violence. You remember we talked about that, where the fans come onto the field and you had the Fenerbahce players taking swings and crane kicks, just trying to make sure that they didn't get hit by rival supporters. So Fenerbahce, and they say they're going to revisit it in the offseason about leaving the Turkish league in general. I don't know where they would go, but because of all of this, and also because of the match with Olympiacos today, Fenerbahce fielded a U19 team in protest. And so Fenerbahce just said, tell you what, we ain't doing it. And we're going to field a U19 team. Fenerbahce conceded. Galatasaray got the win. They were celebrating. So they withdrew. They conceded a goal in the first minute. And then Fenerbahce, once again, they quit. 2 minutes after the starting whistle with their U19 team, walk off the field, we're done. So I think Galatasaray has had it. I mean, the Fenerbahce has had it on a bunch of different levels. And it included Fenerbahce walking off the field. They were done walking off the field to protest alleged unfavorable treatment by Turkish soccer authorities. Mauro Icardi. So there's your Mauro and Wanda update. So Mauro and Wanda. Mauro scores in the first minute. Fenerbahce players then leave the field. They're out. Field a U19 team stand around. Icardi scores. We're walking off. Galatasaray subsequently declared the winner. And Fenerbahce president spoke of a rebellion where he detailed alleged injustices going back over the years. Time for a reset for Turkish football. 2 Fenerbahce players banned for 1 match by the Turkish Federation last week after the Trabzonspor violence that we talked about. Turkish team had wanted to get this pushed back, get the tournament, the final push back again because of the match with Olympiacos. Turkish league was like, nah. So they're mad, Fenerbahce, on multiple fronts. So they tank the Super Cup final, and they're playing at Olympiacos today. Slight underdog in Conference League, but not a complete and total underdog in Champions League. So what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch. Once again, busy day. She Believes Cup, by the way, drew 621,000 viewers on TBS. 229,000 watched the Padres and the Cubs. Once again, that should tell you a lot. It should tell you a lot, other than the fact that Alyssa Nair continues to be a badass. Today, Copa Libertadores 6, 8, and 10. Super League at 1:30 on BN and BN en Español. You can pick up BN for the fans, TIC, Nuestra Tele, Gold TV, Liga 1 Max, all those. You can pick them up at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. And it helps out them, helps out us, and it helps out you and your degenerate watching of the sport around the globe. You have all the BNs. So AFCON, all of the Middle East, North Africa leagues that they have as a part of the broadcast. You can grab that there at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. Europa League on CBS Sports Network at 3 with Milan and Roma. And you end up with Libertadores separate broadcasts on BN en Español, LDU Quito Botafogo at 6, River Plate Nacionals at 8. 2 has Milan and Roma at 3. Unimas has Milan and Roma at 3. USL Championship tonight at 7. It is the Tampa Bay Rowdies and the Miami FC. Paramount Plus has all of the action in Europa League, all 4 of those, all 4 of the matchups in the Conference League. And VIX has all of the Europa League matchups, all of them at 3 o'clock. So before Niko gets in, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, who might be going where, don't hold your breath. As we always tell you, check your sources. So Arsenal and Chelsea closely monitoring Ivan Toney. According to Sky Germany and Florian Plettenberg, Brentford wants 80. Plettenberg is saying 40. So we'll see what happens. Victor Gyökeres, his agent, says it'll be harder for him to stay at Sporting Lisbon if Ruben Amorim, who has been linked with Liverpool, leaves the club. Amorim came out publicly and said he hasn't had any conversations yet. Lille manager Paulo Fonseca heads the West Ham shortlist if West Ham parts ways with David Moyes. Chelsea and Brighton boss Graham Potter is in line to take over from Eric Ten Hag, who reportedly expects to be sacked this summer following a meeting with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Chelsea targeting Victor Osimhen at Napoli, but the club will focus first on selling players to raise funds. Remember, you've got to keep an eye on profit and sustainability rules. Chelsea's in big trouble in that number right now. Mauricio Pochettino and his coaches have been unimpressed by Mykhailo Mudrik's progress this season. Blues might be in the market for a new winger. Remember, they signed Mudryk to an 8-year deal so they could control the asset and defray the cost of the transfer fee. So it was an 8-year deal for 64, I think, on the signing fee. Keep an eye on that. Bayer Leverkusen joined Liverpool and Spurs in the race to sign Crescencio Somerville from Leeds. Leeds is in a massive three-way dance right now for the promotion in the championship. 3 teams separated by 1 point, matches in hand across the board. It is Leicester, it is Ipswich, it is Leeds. 2 of those get automatic promotion. The third's going to have to fight their way through the promotion playoff. Manchester United set their sights on AC Milan forward Rafael Leao, valued at €145 million by the Italian club. Villa growing increasingly hopeful Douglas Luiz will sign a new long-term contract. Shakhtar Donetsk preparing to sell Ukraine midfielder Georgi Sudakov. Liverpool, Villa, Arsenal, Manchester City interested. Inter Milan defender Denzel Dumfries may be a target for Villa, and the Italian club would consider an offer of more than €30 million for the 27-year-old Netherlands international. Contract with the Serie A club runs out 25. Manchester United to let 12 of their first-team squad leave Old Trafford in the rebuild, according to our friends at 442. German keeper Alexander Nubel set to sign a new 5-year deal with Bayern Munich, which will involve continuing his loan deal with Stuttgart for another year. And we mentioned 777. A deal has been reached for Lyon boss Sonia Bonpastor to become the next manager of the Women's Super League club Chelsea this summer, succeeding Emma Hayes. So Sonia Bonpastor looks like she is going to be moving over to Chelsea in the WSL. So that's your look on juice boxes, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all those kinds of things as Major League Soccer catches its collective breath now that the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza is out the door, and we await for other things. Rodri has said for Manchester City, the equivalent of, bruh, I need a break. I need an absolute break. So Rodri is tired. He has said that he is tired. So I would anticipate in the short term, after what happened in the midweek, for those of you that play fantasy or are a fan of Manchester City, do not count on starting Rodri, Haaland, Foden. We don't know if Kevin De Bruyne has stopped throwing up because he was supposed to be a part of the starting 11 in the matchup against Real Madrid, but when he got to the Bernabeu, just started throwing up and was held out of the lineup. So we don't know the health of Kevin De Bruyne, but I would anticipate that you make sure that a lot of folks who have Manchester City in their fantasy teams don't start and don't captain, or at least make sure that if you do that, that you've got a bench to back you up so you don't have any problems. Dell, who plays Premier League fantasy with yours truly, is using his free hit in game week 34. Smart move. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I would not anticipate the teams that are playing in the midweek or playing late in the midweek starting folks unless the margins are fixed in the matchup itself. Meaning if business is taken care of early, then I could see it because then you're probably pulling players after 60 anyway. But considering Manchester City specifically, don't anticipate that the matchup against Luton is going to have a lot of first-team folks that you're used to seeing. So right now, and with the juice boxes attached to that particular matchup, knowing that it's an important one for Luton Town, but just as important for Manchester City. Manchester City will probably win a very underwhelming 2-0, 3-1, something like that at Kenilworth Road. And they're one of the 10 o'clocks on Saturday at home. It is at home at the Etihad. But so Luton comes to the Etihad. Manchester City's a minus 1,000 right now. But don't anticipate a whole lot of folks starting that you saw in the midweek. Standings, just to remind you how things are, thanks to Manchester United throwing a wrench into the plans. 31 matches played. Arsenal ahead of Liverpool on goal difference by 9 at 71 points. Manchester City is third at 70 points and behind both on goal difference. So 21-7-3, 21-8-2, and 22-5-4. So 3 teams, 1 point, and you have 7 matches to go. for the record, we mentioned what Manchester City's up to. Liverpool gets to play on Sunday. Arsenal gets to play on Sunday. Liverpool gets Crystal Palace, big favorite at home, and Arsenal, big favorite at home against Aston Villa. So Arsenal's a minus 333, Liverpool in the composite a minus 476. Not as big as Manchester City, but also Liverpool and Arsenal get the extra day to get ready in the Premier League. So schedule makers, let's see. Do you know how many places Premier League gets Champions League? I think that changes this season. I think that they get to add one more Champions League spots for the Premier League. I actually typed it, and I didn't have any spelling errors. That's a shocker. Champions League, new format, and it's 5. It apparently is 5, according to our friends. How the Premier League gets 5 spaces. This came from Dale Johnson, August of last year. 4 more clubs take part in the group stage, 36 competing, and you end up with 2 going to the best performing leagues in Europe this season. Place goes to the next team in the league, which has not automatically qualified. Last season, that would have been, according to Dale Johnson, Liverpool and Atalanta. Places most likely to go to clubs from the top leagues. 1 place goes to the 3rd place team in the league, ranked 5th in the UEFA coefficient. Last season, that was France, so it would have been Marseille. 1 place goes to the qualifying path for champions. 4 teams used to come through the route in the league phase, but from next season, it will be 5. It cannot go to a team from the top 10 leagues as their champions don't go through qualifying. So, how many Premier League clubs qualify? England's 4 qualify automatically. Same applies to La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A. The 2 leagues that have the best coefficients this season will get that extra place. So it's all about math, Del. If England's in the top 2, 5th qualifies for Champions League. Individual club coefficient doesn't matter. Goes to the next team in the domestic table. So 6 of the last 7 years, it has been England and somebody else. Premier League will have 8 clubs in Europe, with West Ham winning the Conference League. Didn't qualify for Europe domestically, so they had 8 coming into this season. But 5, the 5th bid for the Premier League has to do with math. So, yeah, Manchester United still in theory has a chance. Still in theory has a chance. So what you're looking for, we always talk about the 3 groups in the Premier League, one to the other. Right now, Manchester United, with a match in hand, they got to make up 11 points. Villa's at 60, Spurs are at 60, 3 goals behind in goal difference. But Manchester United's at 49, West Ham's at 48, Newcastle 47. So, yeah, if you think you can make up 11 points in 7 matches, sure. But it looks like it's going to be some combination, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Spurs, Villa. That's going to be your 5th slot for Champions League. That's how that will work. Yeah. So Manchester United still has a chance. You and Drew Dickinson both. You and Drew Dickinson. All right, last half hour of the show. And so that means that we go to Seattle and catch up with our buddy Niko Moreno. And we get to ask him what mug he's using today. We get to ask which cup of coffee he is on today. And we will do so right now. So, Niko, what mug are you using, sir, this morning?
Today's the Juan Valdez, the white invisible cup, apparently, because it's white.
There you
There
go.
it is.
There it is.
There it is.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's a little Juan Valdez cup. And it's my first one. And you can tell by the fact that I am slightly late. And I do apologize. It is spring break for the kiddos over here. And that makes it a lot harder to just get going in your morning.
Nothing wrong with that, brother. Trust me, I understand it completely. So we will go in a no dilly, no dally zone. We'll start off with CONCACAF Champions League. And
did that happen?
Yeah, I guess if Messi and friends didn't make it to the semis, it obviously didn't. It was a long night, brother, for Messi and friends. They got thumped at Monterrey. Jordi Alba kind of lost his plot a little bit in the second half. Hand to the throat. 4 minutes later, studs to the instep. Jordi Alba's out the door. He ain't happy. Luis Suarez does the dollar sign to the center ref, kind of, not remembering that, bruh, if CONCACAF wanted that, you'd be in the tournament. It was a long night for Messi and friends in Monterrey.
Yeah, tough game. I thought that Monterrey understood the assignment. They knew that they were the ones that had the game to their advantage. They were very cautious and careful on how they um, planned the defensive scheme to just limit Messi throughout the whole game. They provided them the ball and kept possession in areas that they weren't really dangerous with the ball. So they allowed Inter Miami to have the ball, move it around, but they really had no penetration. They had no ability to really affect the game. It just seemed like Monterrey was the most dangerous team throughout the whole game. Messi had a couple of opportunities, maybe not as sharp, coming in from an injury, hasn't been playing. I thought that with Franco Negri coming back, that maybe he was going to start this game. And no, I get that you want Jordi on the field, but maybe putting him in the second half against already tired Aguirre, and maybe allowing him to get into the game and be more impactful then with his ability to pass, to get forward, because Franco Negri, he was going to get that side tired. I mean, you saw him against Colorado. I thought he was phenomenal in the way that he moves and how much pressure he puts on. I think he has great service into the box. So maybe I thought that with the problems in depth and injuries, maybe Tata was going to use that as a resource to have another player to just come in and be more impactful at a particular time. He didn't. The midfield by Canales and Romo just was too much for Inter Miami to handle. And no disrespect to Gomez, who, he had the goal. I think he's progressing as a young player in MLS, but it just wasn't enough. Not to mention the fact that when you're already playing a top team in the region and you give them a goal the way Calendar did, you're just putting yourselves in a bad position, right? So I've thought throughout this year, Inter Miami needs to understand that sometimes the tiki-taka, playing out of the bag, just needs to be moved on, and at times you got to be more direct, and at times the easy pass is the better pass, and Calendar just dumping that ball to midfield would have been so much better. So just too many mistakes against a Monterrey team that ultimately was the better squad, the better roster, and they deservedly go to the next round.
And you end up with a Final Four. On the left-hand side, it's two Liga MX sides. And on the right-hand side, this is where Crew comes into play. So Crew makes their way into the Final Four. And I was making the point earlier in the show that I know everybody's sitting there and screaming about, roster this, roster that, cap this, cap that, do all these things. But under the current construct, Columbus is the better team. 1 through, where Jason was on earlier this morning, and he goes, okay, you look at Inter Miami 1 through 6, gangbusters. You've got all the heavy hitters and all that kind of stuff. But then the rest of that starting 11, you were like, defense, okay, I guess we have to have dudes out there. And so we got dudes out there with the heavy hitters. And then the bench, you look at the bench, and it's your draft picks and your budget guys. So Crew, the better constructed team to what Wilfred Nancy wants to do right now. Inter Miami constructed the way that they wanted to construct themselves, going gangbusters and trying to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, it's just the structure of a team that has not just an identity, but that they picked up what Nancy wanted them to do immediately. They have the quality. They have a team that can pressure very effectively, whether it's counter pressure, whether it's pressing high. Defensively, they're solid. They're just a balanced team. And like you said, maybe under the same regulations through the MLS and the limitation that you have in the cap, they've put together a very balanced team that was able to beat a Tigres team without their best player in the first game. 20 minutes down a man in the first leg, gifting a goal to the opposition 3 minutes in the second leg, and not having a guy like Aiden Morris as part of this team. So that tells you enough about this Columbus team, what they're about. Sometimes the next man up mentality is just a saying, is just something that you say to people. This team really has that, and they've thrived on being able to put whoever it is, whether it's Hinestrosa or Rowe or Matan, and in the midfield, whether it's Aiden Morris or Jones or Nagby or whoever it is. So it's just credit to this Columbus squad. I thought, looking at the bracket, the same way you looked at the March Madness bracket and you knew that it was going to be Yukon all along, I thought Columbus was going to be the MLS team all along. So they are where they're supposed to be. I still think that they have a good chance at winning this thing. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like they have enough of a system and talent to take on the challenge of maybe getting a CONCACAF Cup.
All right, let's talk about the week that was before we get into a cliffhanger here this morning, as we always do, because we always like to go backward to kind of analyze things, see where things sit, and then go sprinting into the week that will be. When you look at what happened last week in Major League Soccer, I know that I want to catch up with you about what's going on in Seattle, because I know that Brian Schmetzer had some time to talk, and it turned out to be a make-right game for Seattle, putting 5 on the board against CF Montreal that has drawn a lot of praise so far getting into this particular point of the season under Laurent Courtois. But Seattle brought out the whooping stick and put 5 on the board for the win.
Yeah, we could start there. Unexpected. I'm going to be quite frank. I don't think anybody, even Brian Schmetzer, I doubt he drew it up that way. But that's the way it happened. And it's credit to the players. It's credit to a team that I believe just had players in the wrong positions. And in this one, everything just happened to work. After the game, I had asked Raul Ruidiaz about, in the past decade, the forte, the big factor that made Seattle such a successful team was the fact that this team could play out of memory. They had a chemistry. Everybody knew where everybody had to be at. And in this particular game, it felt like they found it. So whether they need to continue to not move any pieces, or they need to continue work this way as they get players back, you can see the potential that Seattle has if they're playing at their best, if everything goes their way. And I've said that from the very beginning of the season, that this team had the potential to be a top team in the West only if things went their way. So perhaps with this momentum and this epiphany that maybe Jordan Morris should never, ever, ever play the striker position again, and that he's your most valuable and he has the best assets to help your team, whether it's on the left or the right, out wide, then things should continue to go well for Seattle. I think that Seattle's lucky that Raul Ruidiaz has been as mature, professional, relentless, because he could have very well not decided to get off his behind from the bench, right? This is where you want me. This is where I'm going to be at. But he has been fantastic. He's been great. I asked Obed Vargas just yesterday that what's different, what's changed about Raul Ruidiaz. He told me it's not that nothing's changed. It's just that he just seems to be so focused, and he's the first one here. Like anytime that we get to the training camp, his car is the first one here. He's the last one to leave. So I just think that he's decided that no matter what, this is his team. No Nicolas Lodero. This is my squad. I'm going to be the guy that's going to get them out of this rut. And he did it deservingly. He got 2 goals. He got an assist before the assist. I thought he was the best player of the match against Montreal. So I do believe that as long as this continues to work that way and Raul keeps that pride in his chest to say, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the one that's going to get us out of here, they're going to continue to play well.
All right, other Western action. I mean, some of these matches last weekend, man, they found the mate with the extra special edition that was attached to it. I mean, you end up with Austin and San Jose. I think somebody scored all over again just now before the segment started. Finished up 4-3, absolute craziness with a goal scored at the 212th minute to get the 4-3 win for Austin. El Tráfico went to LAFC 2-1. We figured that one was going to be tight and chippy. Vancouver, welcome back Vanni Sartini. They brought out the whooping stick too. They didn't score as many as Seattle, but they shut out Toronto 4-0. And then you end up with Kansas City and Portland. They were on the good stuff too with a 6-goal thriller at 3-3. Once again, Portland, you can't hang on to a lead. And this time it happened on the road. From the other action out west, what sticks in your mind?
Well, in this one, let's start with Portland. I mean, I thought that they bounced back, right? I mean, they're down 3-0 against Kansas City. I don't know if they needed a little kick in the behind to really get going. I heard from John Rojas that Neville talked to the team at halftime, and he said there are no soccer players out there. That's not players who want to be that are pros out there. That's not what I think I'm seeing out there. And the guys came out in the second half and played a lot better. Evander got on the ball. They were able to stretch out this Kansas City defense. So I do want to praise Portland for having that fight to get back into a game that looked like it was over. Yep. I kid you not. I turned the TV off because Agata was going to he was about to kick a PK for the 4-0.
He pulled it, yeah.
And he pulled it, right? And I left. I had to go pick up a couple of steaks, so I left. When I came back, I see 3-3. I'm like, what happened? So I went back, looked at the game. So I just think Timbers, if they could figure out the defensive woes, because they're constant and persistent, I think they could be a very good team. Austin San Jose, I was not expecting. I don't know. I thought it was going to be a boring game, and it ended up being a goal fiesta. But I'm very surprised and very impressed with Vancouver. If you would have told me that they were going to be top of the West at this time this season, I would have told you were crazy. I think that they have some quality players. I think Vita has been really good. I think Gold's been really good, and White. They have options up top now with Fafa, and it just seems like they have something going well in this Vancouver team. So they've been interesting to see. They're probably the most surprising out of the West today. And when it comes to the Tráfico, I thought that the LA Galaxy did enough to equalize that game. I thought that the PK was made up. There's no way that that's a PK, in my opinion. You can tell that the defender is pulling his leg back. Bouanga looks for the contact. He fakes it. He's already fallen. That should never been a PK. I thought LA Galaxy did enough to tie that game up. We gave Jordan Morris a lot of heat for missing that gimme shot in front of the Quakes in a tougher environment with rain. Bouanga gets a gimme one here that there's no goalkeeper. He's in front of goal. He puts it above, and that just tells you that maybe they're not as sharp as they've been in the past. So I thought it was a good game. LA Galaxy could have tied it up, but I think LAFC knew exactly how to attack the Galaxy, and they've had a little bit of they've had their number in the time being of that rivalry in general. So I just thought that they did well to beat up the Galaxy team at the end. But did the reffing help? Yeah, absolutely.
One more topic before we get into cliffhanger. Emmanuel Reynoso. And it was disclosed by Chief Soccer Officer Khalid El Ahmad with Minnesota United that Reynoso had meetings scheduled in Argentina last year, and I don't mean like 12 months ago or whenever, but last calendar year, and this year, and basically ghosted both meetings. Yeah. Don't know the reason, don't know the rationale. You hope that for someone, if there are deep thoughts that Emmanuel Reynoso is having right now back home, that he gets the counsel that he needs in this kind of a situation. But it is an eyebrow raiser with what's going on with Reynoso in Minnesota United right now. Twice doesn't show, and Minnesota United's without their best player still.
Look, man, I want to be very honest. I think that being talented is one thing, and being great at what you do is one thing. But me, if I was an owner of a team and I got to pick a guy that's extremely talented, but he isn't responsible, he seems like he doesn't really care, he has all these problems outside of the field, and then you give me a guy that maybe is not as talented, but he puts in a lot of effort and he's there every day, and he is a model citizen, I'm going to go with the guy that's a model citizen, especially if I'm spending a lot of money on a player. I think Minnesota should have had enough of Emmanuel Reynoso, and not to be dismissful or insensitive about whatever issues he has as a person. But Minnesota United is in a position where they need to give their fans some results, and it seems like they've done good enough to start off the season where maybe you got to start planning to be without Emmanuel Reynoso, and maybe you got to cut your losses with him, because this is consistent, and every season you're trying to figure out what is he going to do wrong, when is he not going to show up, and you can't do that to a team. You can't do that to a team that needs to, first off, understand the module of a new coach, understand chemistry with a new system, and now you add something the size of Emmanuel Reynoso's distractions. It can become a cancer in your locker room. I mean, I just don't see how Minnesota doesn't just, let it go and cut their losses, because it's just becoming too much to handle, to bear for this Minnesota team.
Yep, and so we'll see see if Minnesota tries to get some kind of special dispensation, permission, what have you, or do they use their get out of jail free card if they still have it? So we'll see what the latest is with Reynoso when we know more. All right, time for cliffhanger. Time to go through the matchups, and when you want to talk about one coming up this weekend, obviously we will allow for time more than normal, discussing Seattle, discussing Atlanta, and we'll go down the roll and lay it all out. Portland and LAFC kick things off, and LAFC is a slight road favorite going to Portland. That one is a 4:45 Eastern time kick on Saturday. Then the 7:30s. Montreal hosting Cincinnati. Seriously, yell. If you want it, like I said, as always, just
what's the numbers on Portland?
Plus 164, slight underdog at home.
And what about that draw?
Plus 263 in the composite.
Ooh, and how about goals? What's the breakdown on goals?
All right, hang on just a second. Let me get there. The composite, once again, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, what they do is they take the average of, say, 13 to 17 different juice box purveyors, throw them in a pile, and come out with the average.
Love it.
2.5 over under a minus 144. 3.5 is a plus 171. So basically, if you think it's going to be a 2-2 draw and you go over at 3.5, it's a plus 171.
Yeah, man. I'll take the draw, and I'll take it with more than the 2.5. I mean, you look at both of these teams, they have shown throughout the season that they have the guns up top, but they have some issues in the back. So Portland has consistently made it very difficult for LAFC whenever they play right here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
I see them coming in from a game that, although it was a 3-3, you might have some momentum, that the fact that you were able to come back from that. Love Evander, love Anthony. I think that Santiago Moreno is heating up. I see that to be a 2-2, 3-3 type of draw on that one.
All right, so if you go 2-2 and you say 3.5, you're at a plus 171. If you think it's going to be 3-3, 5.5 over under is a plus 840.
Oh, so I get that. It would be awesome, but I'll stick with the with the more sure juice box there with the 2-2.
3.5 is a plus 171. All right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
get into the 7:30s. Montreal is a home favorite against FC Cincinnati. Charlotte on the minus side, favored at home against Toronto FC. DC favored at a plus 108, hosting the purple team. New York City FC on the minus side, favored against the Revs. Red Bulls favored on the minus side against Chicago. 8:30, and this is where we stop because it involves Seattle. Seattle on the road at FC Dallas. Seattle a plus 145. Your draw's a plus 219. FC Dallas basically a plus 200, but you're a road favorite on the plus side for the Seattle Sounders.
Yeah, I think I would take the Seattle Sounders in this one. I mean, Dallas has had a bunch of injury problems. For Seattle, not only are you coming from big game, but Leo Chu practiced in what seems to be in full, at least the last 2 days. Brian Spetzer said that he was a partial participant, but he's looked on a tear. I mean, yesterday there was a scrimmage against the Tacoma Defiance. There was a scrimmage between inner squad scrimmage, and Leo Chu was absolutely taking no prisoners. Looked good, looked fast. Maybe the fact that Jordan Morris is out there looking really good on that left side gives him a little motivation to get back at it, and that just gives Seattle more depth. I talked about Raul Ruiz. I think that the midfield is going to be very solid. Maybe João Paulo start this one. Maybe he just comes in the second half. It's a work in progress with João Paulo, but having him back is huge. He played, I think, 15 minutes against Montreal. So it's a work in progress. I think that there's a lot of good things coming in from Seattle against a Dallas team that has issues with their system, has issues with injuries. So I see Seattle winning this one.
All right, the other 8:30s. The Loons at home on the plus side, favored against Houston at a plus 104. Arrowhead Stadium, whatever they call it now, Jihad Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Sporting Kansas City. Well, they ain't sponsoring the show, so for me, it's always Arrowhead until further notice. Sporting Kansas City at home, favored at a plus 122. Draws a plus 259. Messi and friends come to town at a plus 204. Uh-oh.
I don't know, man. I might take Miami with those numbers, man. Look, I understand that they just got beat up, and you're going into a game that you're potentially going to have to rotate a lot of players in general. But maybe you don't. Maybe Tata just surprises you and says, "Look, we got to shake this rust off. We got to shake this L off our systems, and we need to give the fans something to smile about, and they'll go in here and they really hit up Sporting Kansas City." So against my own best judgment, I'm going to take Inter Miami in this one. And we'll see next week if that goes through. Last time we hit on the Red Bulls, I thought we hit that one really well last week. So I'm going to go with Inter Miami in this one. Let's see what happens.
And a plus 204. I see where you're going. RSL, and this is interesting. RSL at home, hosting Crew. Crew, we know what Crew bring to the table. Crew are the dog here at a plus 208 going to RSL. Draws a plus 254. RSL favored at a plus 121. Does Chicho Arango go off against Crew, who have to turn around on short rest after the match with Tigres?
Yeah, I can see what the numbers are skewed that way. I'll still go with a draw. I think Columbus has shown that, like I said, regardless of who's in there in the rotation, they are a very systematic team. RSL, I do like them, and I've liked them since you are a witness that I have liked RSL from the beginning. So I do think that this game, though, is going to be back and forth. It's going to be a little bit more conservative from RSL. They're not going to want to get stretched out. I see this a draw. And what's the numbers on the goals?
All right, so we'll start with the defensive specialties here when it comes to the total. Over under once again in the composite. 2.5 is a minus 134. 3.5 is a plus 181. So if you're thinking, over at 3.5, it's a plus 181.
Oof.
See, you're hedging, so that to me means you're
No,
not.
that's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna just stay with RSL. Leave it at that. I mean, in a draw, RSL Columbus draw. Maybe a 1-1, maybe a 0-0, but I think that's going to be a little bit more of a chess match than you're used to seeing from either one of these teams. Maybe the offense is not going to be as effective in this one.
Yep. San Jose in the late game hosting Colorado. San Jose's a plus 114. Whitecaps at home late at BC Place hosting LAG.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Whitecaps are favored at a plus 106. LAG is a plus 209. The draw is almost a plus 300 in the composite.
Wow. Woo. That's good. I like that. You know what I would do with this one?
Mm-hmm.
I would take the Galaxy in this one, and I would take the over on goals. And you don't even got to tell me what it is. Well, you should, but this is going to be a high-scoring game, man. Both of these teams can really get it going. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Well, 3.5, your over-under at 3.5 is a plus 130, so you can only go more plus than there. So literally, your baseline over-under 3.5, a plus 130. 4.5 is a plus 288. And 5.5, if you're really feeling it, is a plus 620. I don't think they get to 5.5. I don't think it's necessarily 3-3.
You know what? The 4.5, I wouldn't do it, but 4.5 seems tempting. I'm just taking LA Galaxy in this one. But the 4.5, a 3-2 game would not be crazy for these two teams. Fighting the top of the West, that's a good game. But I'll take the Galaxy, no goals.
Plus 288 at 4.5. All right, 2 games left on the board. All Caps SC hosting Austin at a minus 143. No real surprise, but the early game on Sunday, Atlanta United favored at home against Philadelphia Union. Atlanta United plus 108. Your draws a plus 284. Philadelphia Union, who are probably coming in full strength at a plus 213.
Yeah, that's tough. I can see that being a draw. The dynamic changes without Gigi up top for Atlanta. I mean, he's just such a difference maker. Almada, I hate to say it, but at times when he doesn't have that other star on the field, diminishes a little bit. He's a little bit more limited. You could see him get frustrated. Philadelphia is hard to play against. Carranza is a menace. I could see a draw in this one, but it's going to be a tough game for Atlanta, in my opinion.
Yep, I think it's going to be a street fight, and it's going to be a rock fight in a phone booth, as Jarrett says. What is going on at Pulso Sports on the Soccer Bar? I know that you've got a turn in about 53 minutes for your new round of Soccer Bar. What's going on?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this Inter Miami and get behind the scenes a little bit. We've had a lot of information come in on the Spanish side in terms of the novella between Tano and Tata and Messi. So we'll give you guys a little bit more scoops on that from Diego Cora, who's always on the ball when it comes to that sort of thing. So check it out. Should be fun. We'll talk about the odds of MLS team winning this CONCACAF Cup. So check that out in about 40 minutes. And Pulso Sports, we have Obed Vargas talking about, I kind of teased it a little bit here, Raul Ruiz, his moment. He was a kid that was he blew up about CONCACAF champions when the Seattle Sounders won CONCACAF Champions League. And he's been up and down ever since then. He's been a starter since Joe Paulo has been injured, but now with JP back, he could be maybe getting some minutes pulled back. So he talks about that balance of being happy of getting JP back, but understanding that he's going to have to continue to play well if he wants to maybe be that partner to JP and not hit the bench. So really good interview with Obed Vargas there at Pulso Sports.
All right. So 4Card is asking, okay, what's the link to the Soccer Bar? How does 4Card get to watch what's going on at Soccer Bar?
Soccer Bar, just like that, BAR on YouTube. You can go to my Twitter at Niko, El Rolo NW, and there you can see that I've reposted the link to both our YouTube channel as well as our streaming on various Facebook and other social media. You can also download the podcast, just the sound, through iTunes, TuneIn, all the fun stuff that you guys are used to listening your podcast on. So if you don't catch it live, you can catch it later. You could download the audio in your favorite podcast application.
Well, and folks get to spend their lunch hour here on the East Coast with you if they get to dial it over and catch up with you at the soccer bar. It's another go around of Thursdays with Niko, my friend. Have a great broadcast the rest of the day. We will catch up with you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
There goes Niko. Niko's going to go get he's going to wrap up his first cup of coffee, and he's going to get ready for soccer bar. So that's Niko on the Twitters at El Rolo NW, and 4Card. Hopefully that helps in getting you over to soccer bar on the YouTubes. And once again, you can go to Niko's Twitter at El Rolo NW, and it links through from there as well. So you can catch up with him at soccer bar. 4Card says the homegrowns are going to go off, and Atlanta United is going to go Philly with the kids. You're going to go Philly and Philly with the kids. I mean, we talked about it with Jason, and it is the possibility. I mean, obviously Noah Cobb's going to be at the back. Luis Abram with the left foot will be a left center back. And then the other question, obviously, is up top. Once again, we don't have answers, but try and keep Yorgos Giacomakis off the pitch. But once again, bone bruises, and, you know, those of us who are mere mortals and the wannabe athletes, we take a step wrong, we make contact with something, we kick a table, or we cut a corner, and we get those bone bruises. We know how that is when we cut a corner and we hit a table leg. For the professional athlete, it is a far different thing. And you have pain thresholds and all that kind of stuff. But no update yet. Probably an update tomorrow on Friday about Yorgos Giacomakis. But at the back, it is going to be probably Luis Abram, Noah Cobb, and then Efrain Morales, line one. So remember, here you heard about Efrain Morales. You've heard Efra grow with our broadcasts of Atlanta United 2 soccer here on the network. Efrain Morales is probably going to be on line one as a part of the Game Day 18 for the matchup against Philly. So keep an eye out on that. Up top, once again, no Jamal for a couple of weeks. And we don't know, like I said, 2 to 4 weeks on both Derek and on Jamal. But recovery and 2 to 4 weeks could mean more, could mean less, just depends on how the body responds and how you respond to treatment. So keep an eye on all that stuff. But Efrain Morales, don't be surprised if he's in the Game Day 18, and he's the number 3 when it comes to center backs. And we'll see what happens with Efra on the weekend. So very, very busy week, 2 weeks really for us here at the network. All week long, it is high school action. So once again, I think it's 6 and 8. It is 6 and 8 at Decatur High School, weather permitting. St. Pius and Decatur, right there. Soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Download the Mixler app, MIXLR. And then what you do is you go to Soccer Down Here, set your notifications. When we're live, you can follow us on Mixler. All of our live matches are here. And what you can do is you can go back if you miss it live, even though we don't recommend that. You miss a match, you can go back and listen. We archive them. And so if you miss a match, go back and listen there. So it's been high school all week. It'll be high school tonight, weather permitting. High school tomorrow in Gainesville. And it'll be Johnson, Gainesville doubleheader up at City Park. Saturday, Jason's got the U19s. And so you'll be able to catch up on the U19s. Sunday, it's the first team. Jason mentioned the broadcast plans for Atlanta United on Star 94. And then once again, Monday night, it is soccerdownhere.mixler.com. On our live platform, it is Union 2, Atlanta United 2 from the Fraction. And then we get into the high school playoffs. And I'm trying to see so do we have anything next week? Playoffs. Right. We also have the event at Slow Pour on Monday night for those of you that will not be at the Fraction and will be in Gwinnett County. We've got the event at Slow Pour. I will be at that event while Jason, Maddie, and the cast of thousands. Morning, Alex, will be over at the Fraction for Union 2 and Atlanta United 2. And David, yeah, I mean, Gigi and friends made the Chicago D look like tables or traffic cones. Absolutely. And that's the other issue up top. Rios probably playing on the roster. Yes, please repeat everything we've said over the past 2 hours. Absolutely. Spent a lot of time talking about Messi and friends. Spent a lot of time talking about the new training addition at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. So Atlanta United's adding another batch of buildings and space for Atlanta United as they expand the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Talked about that. Talked about Messi and friends. Jason came on. We talked about high school, talked about the training facility, talked about She Believes, talked about his trip, talked about New York City, got ready for Philly. Went over stuff in the Premier League, Alex, in the opening kickoff. I gave you and your Newcastle team a shout out for the technology that you were unveiling this weekend to help out sight impaired hearing impaired and deaf individuals with the haptic sensors on the jerseys. So that's going up with the Spurs match. That was opening kickoff. I gave your ownership group a tip of the cap for that this morning in opening kickoff. Went through all the stuff in the Premier League, went through all the gossip, rumor, and innuendo, got your juice boxes, what to watch, encouraged Fanatis, and then Niko was on, and we went through everything from the Western perspective. We'll post Niko's segment to the app. We'll post Jason's segment to the app, and you can listen to that in addition to the full show. So Alex can listen to the full show on the app, and he can listen at the very end of the full show to the recap that we just gave. So that's what we're up to. Dell, I do not know. I think it's Greg's turn tomorrow. I don't know. Usually what I do is I send out a bat signal before 9:00 Eastern time, and whoever pops up, pops up. If it's Parkey, obviously we'll talk Rhode Island in the Battery, because I know that he will be anticipating your conversation in the Twitch pitch. If it's Greg, we'll talk to Greg. And we'll talk unified team and a bunch of other things with Greg. But yeah, I send out the email for Beyond Goals, and somebody pops up. Literally, that's it. So that's what happens. So Maddie is chasing interviews. She's going to have some really cool stuff with Soccer's in Session, and she's got some other cool stuff going on. We're tracking down our friends at Carolina Core with head coach Lassiter, with Roy Lassiter, and seeing how things are growing there. Keep an eye on what's going on with South Georgia Tormenta and Coach Cameron in USL League One. We'll have a preview of all that stuff tomorrow, hour number 2, when it comes to juice boxes and the weekend whip round. So, like I said, Del, I don't know. I don't know who pops up. I send it to both, and whoever pops up, pops up. And next week is round 3 of the Open Cup, so we'll keep an eye on that too. So that is the show for today, and thanks for hanging out. Jason hopefully is still not electricity challenged, because he had to. I think he went to his car to do the segment this morning, and so a shout out to Jason for being a true trooper and getting that done. But that's tomorrow. Tonight, once again, 6 and 8, St. Pius and Decatur. Tomorrow, Johnson, Gainesville, and then it starts all over again. Saturday, the U19s on the Atlanta United YouTube and the website, probably ATLUTD.com. First team on Sunday. Second team on Monday here on the network, and it starts all over again with the high school playoffs. So back in less than 22 hours, and we'll be back at it again for a Friday to get you ready for the weekend. Thanks to everybody who came on the show this morning. Thanks to everybody who was talking to us all this morning. That's what Thursday Thoughts are for. So for everybody here, out to all of you, thanks for hanging out. Hope you've made it through the nasty weather. Hope the nasty weather continues to evade you for yet another day so we can all get ready for the weekend. Since that's the end of the show, Mucha Platiel played safe. That means I get to do this. We'll catch up with you again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.